And now, NBA superstar and North Carolina native Chris Paul shares his memory of voting for the first time.
Man, I absolutely remember voting for the very first time. I couldn't wait. I remember going to the ballots. It was at an elementary school right up the street from the house that I grew up in. It was at Louisville Elementary School. And I remember going and, looking around, and it was a lot different from voting for class president or something like that. I officially felt like an adult, to tell you the truth. I felt like I could make a difference. Everyone's vote matters, and if you can get others to get out and vote, those group chats that you're in and you're talking to everybody about what's going on in social media, just send a link and get everybody out to vote.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We are welcoming you to the Voting in 2020 Town Hall. You've got questions, we've got answers. And so tonight, our goal is to try and answer as many questions as you might have around voting, registering, and the whole election process for this year. So to get started though, we'd like to bring forward our Congresswoman who represents North Carolina's 12th Congressional District, Congresswoman Alma Adams. So she was elected to Congress in 2014 and is serving her third full term in the House of Representatives. Representative Adams serves on the Committee on Financial Services, the Committee on Education and Labor, and the Committee on Agriculture. She's chairwoman of the Committee on Education and Labor's Subcommittee on Workforce Protections and vice chair to the Committee on Agriculture. Throughout her career, she has been a huge advocate for voting and civic engagement.
Good evening and welcome to our Voting in 2020. You've got questions, we've got answers, Town Hall. I am and always have been deeply committed to ensuring that we all embrace our role, responsibility, and privilege of participating in our democracy. While there are many ways of engaging civically, voting is the best, fastest, and easiest way we can shape our society and determine who we want to represent us in the process of making our ideals a reality. And it's all the more important because historically, many of us did not have the right to participate in this way. The truth is, many of us weren't supposed to have a voice or a say in this country, let alone a vote. But over the course of centuries, women, people of color, and members of many marginalized communities decided that righting that wrong was something worth fighting for and even dying for. It took nearly 100 years from our nation's founding for Black men to win the right to vote, at least in name only. As we know, the 19th Amendment was only the start for Black Americans, and particularly Black women. The fight for women's suffrage continued for almost a half a century longer. And for Black Americans, our fight lasted through the Civil Rights Movement and the passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Now, a century after women won the right to vote and a half century after the Voting Rights Act, we're still working to ensure that the right to vote is a reality in every community across the country. It's because of this history and because of our ongoing struggle to rectify it that I believe voting is not just a right and a privilege, but more importantly, a duty. And now more than ever, I think we have an obligation to uphold that duty. It is my sincerest hope that tonight's event provides the information that each of us needs to lift our voices and vote, to do our part to make what we want to see for ourselves, our families, our communities, and our country a reality. With that, I want to welcome remarks from someone who is no stranger to this topic and is a firm believer in the power of each of our votes, former First Lady Michelle Obama.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for all that you're doing to help everyone in this country make their voices heard in this year's election and in every election. Your work has never been more important. It's clear that we're in the middle of a big moment in this country. Our job between now and November is to make sure everyone we know understands that the power to make change rests on our ability to cast a vote. Fair and safe voting is going to be more important than ever this year. Make sure your friends, families, and communities are registered, know their rights, and are fully prepared to vote by mail this year or vote early in person. And get yourselves, your families, and your friends ready to make their voices heard, because this election couldn't be more important.
So up next, we have Dolores Johnson Hurt, who is the president of the League of Women Voters of Charlotte-Mecklenburg. And Dolores is a civil rights, journalistic, and entrepreneurial pioneer. She's a small business owner and an educator. And she's been president of the League of Women Voters since 2016, having joined the League in 2014. She's the second African-American to hold that position in the 100-year history of the organization. So join me in welcoming Dolores Johnson Hurt.
Good evening. Thank you so much for inviting me to take part in this town hall meeting. I am so looking forward to participating, and I must say I'm delighted at the number of people who have voted so far. I've been asked to speak for a few moments on the subject, Your Vote, Your Voice. The topic, Your Vote, Your Voice, is particularly meaningful to me because I do head an organization, the League of Women Voters of Charlotte-Mecklenburg, whose founders and their predecessors fought for over 70 years for the right of women to vote in the United States. Before 1920, women did not have much of a voice because they could not vote. They were second-class citizens, kept from owning and inheriting property, from having legal claim to the money they earned, from having custody of their children in case of divorce. Because of voter suppression, women of color remained as second-class citizens until the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Voting gives all of us a voice at the table when decisions are made about where we live, what we breathe, what we eat, how we learn. Because the past is very much a part of our present and our future, we need to remember that our history, that at one time our voices, at one time the right to vote, the right to have our voices heard through the vote was not a given, and that it can and will be taken, and indeed is being taken through voter suppression when we are not vigilant. We have learned that one person's voice can change the nation, but we know that millions of voices translated into millions of votes can have a powerful outcome. Women Power the Vote is the League's slogan as we continue to celebrate 2020 as the 100th anniversary of the League of Women Voters and the right of women to vote. There is power in the vote and in our voices, so let us not allow either to be silenced. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dolores. We really appreciate you being with us. And I think all of us on the call or the Zoom call tonight probably have a story around voting and civil rights and civic engagement. And I am no different. I remember my mom, even up until well into her 80s, was actually driving people to the polls every time there was an election. She was just committed and she placed that in me. And I'm so grateful to be on this call with you all tonight because so many people really have committed quite a bit to make sure we all have that right to cast our vote. It's our civic duty and our responsibility. So up next, we have a youthful voice from a student from Johnson C. Smith University, Miss Isis Seward. She's a political science major, and she's taken courses in ethics and constitutional law, Spanish, and she just enjoys the political science arena. So we're really happy to have her with us tonight to share her perspective on why voting matters. Isis?
Hi, y'all. Thank y'all for having me. First thing I want to touch base on is voting definitely matters because it gives the individual the power to vote on causes and policies that directly benefit you and affect you. Also, one thing I want to say is a lot of people have the misconception that the national election is the only election that directly benefits you, and not diminishing the national election, but state elections are just as important, if not more. I say this because state electors directly affect you and the things that you find important. Voting in state elections affect your senators, your House of Representatives. They decide your governors, your judges, and even voting for your Board of Education can determine how your education in your state goes. I think one key thing to take away from voting in general is that it's a tool that needs to be used. We have the tools to make changes. We have to do our research and not abuse this tool and just use it for our benefit, lay out the blueprint and make our vote count in order to actually direct the change. One last thing I want to say is democracy can't function without full participation of voters. So it's important to get out there to do so.
Well said, well said. I really value and appreciate your input because you're right. Every election from the national to the local is important, and all government is local. So you've got to make sure you understand and that you participate in that process. There are elected officials that impact the judicial system, hunger initiatives, infrastructure. And so it's important that we are an engaged community and that we take advantage of all the opportunities we have to vote and let our voices be heard because it does matter. All right, so up next, we have someone who I'm sure has participated in a number of these forums because he is the Director of Elections for Mecklenburg County. And his name is Michael Dickerson. He is currently the Executive Director of the Board of Election for Mecklenburg County. He's been in that position since 1998. And prior to that, he was with the Federal Election Commission as a Deputy Assistant Staff Director. And he spent 14 years there. He's currently a member of the International Association of Government Officials, the Election Center, the North Carolina Director of Elections Associations, and a member of the United States Election Assistance Commission Standards Board. And so Michael is the man of the hour, and I'm sure he has quite a bit he'd like to share with us. And we're going to ask him a few questions so that when we end this call this evening, you have a little bit more information regarding voting, the voting process, who can vote, whether or not you can still register. So Michael, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It is an honor to be here. I appreciate the Congresswoman's invitation, and I would not miss that for the world. So thank you very much. And it is a pleasure to talk and a pleasure to see people and talk to people and not have people yelling at me because I didn't know if an early voting site was here or there. The voters in Mecklenburg County continue to amaze me. The enthusiasm, the appreciation, and the gratefulness that they have shown over these past 7 days. Today is the 7th day of early voting, and we have already surpassed over 178,000 people voting early in the first 7 days of this year's primary election. Put it in perspective, the first day of early voting that we had last Thursday was the highest day that we had ever voted in early voting since we started this 20 years ago. We fully expect our busiest day to always be the Friday before Election Day, but this year it just has blossomed. But the voters of Mecklenburg County have tremendously appreciated the fact that they can vote early. Not only that, we have also had the voters of Mecklenburg County greatly appreciate the use of the absentee ballot by mail. We have over 194,000 absentee ballots by mail out in the mail stream right now. And to date, I think we have about 86,000 returned to our office, in our office, and approved by our board. So the things that we have done, the things that we are doing are generally working. This will be a big year for us. As Isis mentioned earlier, everybody thinks that it's a presidential election year. And yes, it is. But there's governor. There are judges on your race. There's a Senate race. There's obviously congressional races, county commissioners. These are the ones that not only affect what you do nationally, but what you do locally. So we've always thought that these are extremely important things to get involved in. You have, for the city of Charlotte voters this year, you have 3 bond questions again this year. So understand your ballot and know what you've got, and definitely get out and participate. We have the opportunity for another week to ask for a ballot by mail. We have the opportunity for another week and a half until the 31st of October at 3 o'clock to vote early. And I encourage you to all get out and to all utilize one of those events. If you cannot, we will still have our polling places open on Election Day, November the 3rd. All 195 sites will be fully staffed and opened on Election Day, and they will be there to serve you as a voter, as the voters, I should say. Surprisingly so, this year has gone very well, knock on wood. This has been a busy time and a hectic time, but we have already, as we looked at it, we have already serviced over 260,000 people have already voted. To put that into a perspective, we voted 450,000 people in the presidential 4 years ago. So we're well on our way to half over this right now. And the way we're doing this is strictly through the early and the absentee. And what our goal is at the Mecklenburg County Board of Elections is always to keep our poll workers and our staff safe, and to also make certain that all of our voters stay safe. We appreciate all the patience that people have shown as they've gone to vote early, as many of your viewers tonight have probably done. They've already voted. They've gone to vote early. They want to make sure everything's good. But I appreciate their patience as we work through social distancing, COVID-19 responses to voting. And to date, I must compliment the staff and the county for all their support. They have done a fantastic job so far. So we appreciate that. I will stop so we can ask some questions. I can't wait to talk a little bit more about what we're doing here and how we're doing it.
All right, thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. And that was a perfect segue into our next section, which is all about the questions and answers, the Q&A section. And, you're right. People are social distancing at the polls. I've had a chance to go around and see, and was really impressed. Folks are really doing the 6 to 9 feet apart. And so the line may look like it's a long line, but actually they're distant. So sometimes it takes a while, and other times it's not as bad. So you've got plenty of locations open. So we hope we want everyone to make sure you cast your ballot, whether in person, by mail, or on Election Day, preferably in advance during early voting. So that's a quick question. Early voting lasts through when? I think
early voting. I'm sorry. I'm muted. Early voting runs through 3 o'clock, October 31st. So 3 o'clock on Halloween. We have to end it at 3 o'clock because we all have to go home and get ready for trick or treat. No, we have to end it at 3 o'clock because the general statute says at 3 o'clock it ends. Now, if you're in line at 3 o'clock, not at 3:05, but if you're in line at 3 o'clock, I will continue to vote you until everybody is serviced through that line at 3 o'clock. So make certain you get there early There's nothing worse than trying to argue with somebody who, well, it's 3:05. The law says 3 o'clock. I have to stop letting the line in. So I try to oblige everybody. And you mentioned in your comment, you have a lot of places. You have 33 early voting sites to vote at this year. That is 50% more than we have ever done before. The last most we had ever done was 22 and 16. But my local board that I answer to, they unanimously approved these 33 sites. And just as you were saying, the socially distancing 6 feet, check-in 6 feet outside the line, we followed all the CDC guidelines and made sure that we queued people up outside. We are so fortunate to live in this wonderful county like Charlotte, Mecklenburg. The weather has been gorgeous for early voting, and we hope it stays that way. But we've got 33 sites, and we're using a lot of high school gymnasiums. We're using Bank of America Panthers Stadium. We're using the Bowplex over at the Bojangles Arena, and we're using the Spectrum Center for the Charlotte Hornets. So impressed with the fact that these groups came to us and said, we want to be part of this community in voting. They reached out to us and said, what can we do to help? The Panthers, first thing, well, let's do this. The Charlotte Hornets, the same way. We'll give you our spot. You can use the mezzanine. I have 20 check-in stations, 38 voting machines there. The place is fantastic. And, we've learned a lot of lessons from us who love to do elections, but we learned a lot of lessons from those people who know how to manage large crowds. And we have been so fortunate to work with such great people at the Spectrum Center and at Bank of America Stadium and the Bowplex. It's perfect places to vote.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the Bowplex because someone in the chat, Nancy C. says, thanks for the messages. Inspiring, Michael. We voted at Bojangles on Monday. Super experience, safe, efficient, friendly, and done.
All right.
So that's a good testimonial. Good testimonial.
That is fantastic to hear. We really appreciate that. And the goal is, as I said, as these people walk in to vote, I pray that they stay safe. And they are so many of them. We outfitted our poll workers, and give a shout out to all of the poll workers that are out there. The early voting workers are doing a fantastic job. They're when we first got into this after our March primary, we started asking the question, what can we do to make sure our poll workers stay safe? And the first question we asked was, gee whiz, in a pandemic, would anybody want to come back and work the polls for us again or work early for us again this year? And to our surprise, over 80% said, yeah, we will be back. We will come back and work again. What are you doing to keep me safe? And as you can see, the folks out at the early voting sites will all be wearing masks. They'll be wearing gloves. There's plenty of sanitizer. There's sneeze guards and shields around everybody. And they are all 6 feet socially distanced themselves, so that we're doing everything we can to keep those people safe. And they're loving it this year. Especially the ones at the Bowplex, the ones at the high school gymnasiums, the two big sites downtown. Just love the fact that we have these great sites.
Okay, well, great. We've got a few questions we're going to run through because we're going to be really efficient on time tonight. So you talked about voters staying safe. So how do you plan to protect the ballots and the voting process? And also this sort of ties in with, what are the measures in place to assure a safe voting experience without intimidation or any type of suppression happening?
Let me get to that first, if you don't mind. We instruct our polling officials, our site coordinators at the early voting sites, our precinct officials on election day, that their job is to keep every voting place open and unobstructed. free from the intimidation, but open and unobstructed. And they can go so far as to call law enforcement in if they need to, and have the authority to have somebody detained and removed from the property. So that it has happened in the past. We have done that in the past years ago, but we always try to work through any issues, but we are not stationing police at any of the sites. We do have them noticed as to where all our sites are in case something comes up. And they have the CMPD and the Sheriff's Office have been great partners with us here and will be, continue to be through this election. We've been very lucky. We've had the support of a great county Board of County Commissioners and City Council that have been all for us in the voting process. So we are very comfortable with the process being safe for all voters to come and go. The other thing is, a very important question is how do you make sure this is all safe? My ballot, what happens to it? Well, as you vote, it's stuck in a tabulator. And that tabulator has all the ballots that were voted on that for that site. And they are brought into our site every day and secured in our vault. So we're perfectly fine there. Plus, I have various electronic pieces out there, the thumb drives that will be able to bring those results back into me, and we'll have both the results on the thumb drive, and we'll have your paper ballots in our office. So we are very secure with that, so that we feel very comfortable that your vote will be secured and counted as voted. Okay. Now I know that there have been thousands of votes that have been mailed in and have been rejected. So how are those ballots cured? What's the procedure for that? Good question. And we never say the word rejected yet, because what we have done, there was a court case that came out, and hats off to the General Assembly for North Carolina General Assembly for passing House Bill 1169 approximately 3 months ago, late summer. They went and redesigned the absentee process. They said instead of having 2 witnesses for a ballot, since we're in this COVID-19, we're going to drop that witness down to 1 person. So I don't need to go get a second person to witness my ballot. I can sign it, and I can have my witness sign it and print their name and their address, and then I can mail that into the Board of Elections, and we will accept those ballots and we will process those through. The only reason why you don't accept a ballot right away is that if it comes in and it's not signed by the voter. The law says it must be signed by the voter and signed by the witness. So those 2 things have to happen, and we need to have the witness print their name and witness print their address on the envelope too. And we've had about 1,000 in this county that have come in that we have had to send a cure affidavit to. Basically, it's a little letter that says you didn't sign it. Sign this and sign this letter and send it back to me, and I will be able to tally your ballot for Election Day. And if they miss if the witness did not sign his name on it or did not present himself on the ballot application, then I have to, what we do is called spoil that ballot. And I will spoil that ballot and then send a new ballot out to the voter and explain to them you didn't have a witness sign it. Make sure you take time, have the witness sign it, and then vote this ballot and send it back to me. So we're trying to get everybody correct before Election Day so I don't have to void a ballot. Okay. Now, is it important to point out the signature of the voter, the signature of the witness, the address, and all the other information is actually on the envelope? Exactly. Right? It's on the outside of the envelope. Yes. Yes. Because some people may not realize they have to do something once they seal their ballot. Right. And you bring up a very good point. Very, very, very smart of you to mention this. 194,000, I think is what I said, have requested an absentee ballot by mail. At the most, I normally send out 35 or 40,000 in a presidential election. At most, that's what I send out. 4 years ago, I only got 25,000 absentee ballots by mail returned to my office. This year, I'm already at 86,000, so I'm approximately 3 times more than what I usually do, a little over 3 times. I expect I go up to 4 or 5 times more absentee ballots than I've ever done in the past. So a lot of people that are requesting these absentee ballots have never voted an absentee ballot before. That's the key. That's the key. So when you get that absentee ballot, take your time, look at the instructions. And again, they redesigned the letter, the application that it comes back in. It's called a ballot return application, but it's redesigned and it's stepped up there. It's tiered. 1, make sure you have a witness. 2, make sure you sign your ballot. 3, make sure you have and it's very, 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 very easy process. Don't let it intimidate you. Anybody can vote an absentee ballot. Anybody is welcome to request an absentee ballot. If you're going to do that, please do so before 5 p.m. a week from today. The deadline to request an absentee ballot is, today's Wednesday, I'm sorry, 5 p.m. a week from yesterday. The 27th of all my days run together when we start early voting. 5 p.m. on the 27th of October is the last day that you may request an absentee ballot. So make certain if you plan on doing this, if you're going to vote absentee, you do it sooner rather than later. And the great thing about it is the State Board of Elections has a portal. If you want to go online and you can request that ballot online, and we will then turn around and send that ballot out to you. It's a great opportunity to vote if you don't want to go out and get involved in this COVID-19 pandemic. Again, we're trying to make sure we keep everybody safe and secure at our early voting sites. But if you're one who just doesn't not want to go out, go ahead and request that absentee so we can get that out to you as soon as possible.
Right. And in keeping with that, we've got a question in chat that says they requested an absentee ballot, but they haven't gotten it yet. And they've used the website to track it, but nothing comes up. Should they reapply?
Give a call to our office tomorrow, would be my advice. And they will look it up and make sure it's in the office. And if it's not in the office, we will let you know that we'll work on something to get it for you. Our goal is to get everybody voting. It's not to not have people voting. So we want to make sure everybody has that opportunity to vote. So please, if you have any concerns or any issues, do not hesitate to just go ahead and again, ask for it again or call our office tomorrow and we will find out where it is, what's the issue, and make sure we can get you a ballot out there.
Okay. And if one of our team could put that phone number in the chat, what's that number for them to call?
704-336-2133.
Okay, 704-336-2133. We'll put that in the chat before we end tonight. We've got another question too. Let's see. It says, will we ever be able to vote by mail without requesting an absentee ballot? Not sure. Okay. They said they've requested a ballot, and okay, that's the same one that wanted to know if they should reapply. But will there ever be a time that you can, I guess, vote without requesting an absentee ballot?
I've looked at this, and as I just watching and seeing what's going on. I do believe this COVID-19 world that we're in now has led to changes in the way we do a lot of things. And I do believe that voting may be one of those things that we change. Do we go to an all-mail ballot? I don't know if that's the answer. There's still a lot of people that still want to go vote in person, as evidence of the 178,000 people that have already voted in person already. In just the first 7 days. So there's evidence that they want to actually just vote in person. Some states out west, I think it's Portland or Oregon and Washington, Colorado, have all do an all-mail ballot. where we just mail out ballots to everybody. That's fine. Logistics behind that are quite extensive, and it's not something you can just turn over in 2 or 3 months. It's going to take 2 or 3 years to get there. But I do believe that you may have a greater mixture now that we have decided, oh, we can vote by mail. That's simple enough. Michael sent me a ballot. I went online in a portal. Michael sent me a ballot and they sent it back to me. Right. And perfect. I can do that. Or, he still has early voting sites open. Maybe there's a mixture of supersized early voting sites and plenty of absentee by mail available. Maybe that's the way we go. When I first started this 20 years ago, I thought, oh gosh, we'll all want to do early voting. And when somebody came up to me and said, yeah, that's a great idea, Michael, you can do early voting and we want you to keep it up. That never shut the precincts down. He said, because a lot of people make election day an event. I get dressed up. I put on and go down and see people I've only seen twice a year. And it is actually warming to walk into a polling place and see people just, oh, how are you? And in this world where we're all usually walking with our head down and we're looking into a phone or something like that, it's really great to see people looking their head up and seeing, oh, there's Mary or there's somebody over there. It's really encouraging to see. So I don't mind doing both. I love the early voting. I love election day, and I don't mind doing the absentee by mail either.
Okay, thank you for that, Michael. I appreciate that. And you're right. You do get to see people and really talk to people that you don't normally see or interact, or you only see them once or twice a year. So you're absolutely right. I've taken vacation day and gone out there in the rain sometimes. I
can't do anything about that.
It's important. It's important to have a rain jacket. But look, I also want to make sure we cover the fact that people, if you have not registered, you still can vote, right?
Sure. And that's a very good point. The registration deadline was a couple of weeks ago. I think it was the 9th of October. And that was a deadline. And we encouraged everybody to get their registration in by then and hope that everybody would. A lot of people did. Plenty of registrations. But those who failed to get it in on time, those who did not have their application in, you still have an opportunity at early voting. In North Carolina, we do something called same-day registration. Same day, you can walk in and register, and you can vote on the same day during early voting. You can't do it during election day, but you can do it during early voting. So I encourage you, if you failed to hit the deadline, don't say, woe is me, all is lost. You can still go vote, register to vote, and vote at the same time at any of our 33 early voting sites. Now, and keep in mind that at early voting, if you're going to same day register, you will have to probably show some sort of ID to show who you are and where you actually live. But everybody else, you walk into the place, you state your name and your address, you verify the ticket that they give you that says your name and your address, you sign it, and then you are voting. That is the best way of doing it.
All right. And a lot of these questions are about absentee ballots. What if somebody gets an absentee ballot and two scenarios, they mail it in, they aren't sure if it was actually counted. So they go to early vote or day of election and vote. How do you ensure that it's not counted twice?
Well, that's a great question, because if you mail it in, or first off too, if you have an absentee ballot, I did this. I requested an absentee ballot and I said, great, I want to see how the process was working. Not checking up on my staff, but just wanted to see how the process was working. I requested the ballot. I received it in the mail. Fantastic, great process. I said, no, I don't plan on voting it. I'm not going to vote absentee by mail. I went to the Spectrum Center this past weekend and walked in, and within 5-10 minutes, I voted and I was done my voting. When that happened, my name is now listed in my computer system as voting. So if I were to try to send in that absentee ballot by mail, that system would reject my absentee ballot by mail, saying this person's already voted and they voted early. So hence, I will never allow you to be able to vote twice. Same way if you decided to go vote, try to go vote on election day after you voted early or you voted by mail. You're going to go to the polling place and the person's going to say, I don't see your name in my book. And you're going to say, I'm registered, but you're registered, but you have already voted. So therefore you will not be given an opportunity to vote twice.
Okay. So there's safeguards in place.
Correct.
And I think one more question I see about ballots, and it's they received an absentee ballot, but they did not request it. So should they be worried?
They received an absentee ballot in the mail?
They said, I received an absentee ballot, but did not request it. Should I be worried?
Yeah, I'm concerned. And that would be, I'd love to talk to that person if they would call that number tomorrow. Did they receive the absentee ballot request form or the ballot itself? A lot of us, I received multiple request forms myself in the mail, 5 or 6 at least from various groups. That request form is not the absentee ballot. So that's why I want to make sure. It is quite possible we can always make a mistake. None of us are perfect. But if you actually have the actual absentee ballot, I'd love to talk to you about that, because somehow, somewhere, somebody didn't put the right person in. I always can get a junior senior mixed up, but I'd hate to do something like that. Okay.
Well, very good. Then sort of shifting gears, we've got someone who, I guess a judge who, let's see, when will judges for election day on November 3rd be notified? This person and their husband were both submitted applications on September 10th, but have not heard anything. And also, will there be training for this?
Right. Now we have recruited all the judges we need. We received 10,000 requests this year from the state's Democracy Heroes program. That's on top of the 5,000 people we had already in our database of folks that we have worked. We just did not start looking for judges this year. Over the past 5 years, we've started developing a database of people who want to be judges. We can't use them all, obviously, but we already have our full slate of judges that we plan on using, and we can now add all these other people into this database that we now have. But we're looking great on the judge front right now. And yes, They all have been trained too.
Okay, very good. Last question for you, Michael. If someone has been formally incarcerated, can they vote?
Sure. If they've completed their sentence, then they are welcome. They've had their rights of citizenship restored. They are welcome to re-register and vote. There's nothing illegal about that in North Carolina. I know some states it's a little different, but in North Carolina, you're welcome to re-register after you've finished your sentence, and you go back out and start participating in the voting process. Please do.
Okay. Well, Michael, I thank you so much. I know you've got another event tonight. Everybody has questions about voting. And so there are lots of opportunities for folks to hear from the experts and get answers. So hopefully tonight, our listeners also learned something they didn't know, or maybe found out something. If nothing else, they got the phone number where they can ask more questions. So
I hope they got more
so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. And let's see, we've got Ms. Johnson Hurt, who is still with us, I believe. Dolores, are you still with us? Okay.
Yes, I'm still here.
Here. Well, I have one question, because we're going to wrap it up, because I know people were trying to sort of participate in a number of events tonight. We've been sort of rapid fire on our questions and trying to make sure people left with answers. So I would just ask you, what advice would you give people who've already voted, who may want to get involved in the process still? How can they get involved?
Well, look around you. Ask your neighbors, ask your family members and friends, see if they voted. If they have not, encourage them to vote. Volunteer to help them through the process. And they'll feel good about voting, and you will feel good about having encouraged them to vote. That's what I would recommend at this point in the game.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Isis, did you have any closing remarks you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners tonight?
Social media is powerful, very influential, and just do your civil duty and vote, basically. It will help you a lot.
Wonderful. Thank you. And those are excellent closing remarks, I guess, from all of our, not I guess, I know from all of our presenters. I want to thank each of you for being with us tonight. There's so many places that you could have been, but you chose to be with us. So on behalf of the Congresswoman and our entire staff in the district office, thank you. And to all of our program participants, thank you as well. We want to tell you, get your team together. As I've heard people say, get your squad together, get everybody you know together, and make sure everybody votes. It's so important. It's an important election, but it's also an important right and responsibility that we all need to exercise. Voting is something that people have bled and died for, to make sure we all have access to it. And so we want to make sure that you have the information. So if you have any questions, be sure to call Michael and his team there at the Board of Elections. The number is in the chat. And we can also provide that for you again at 704-336-2133, 704-336-2133. So thank you again. And in closing, I want to leave you with some words from Mr. John Lewis, who said, "My dear friends, your vote is precious, almost sacred. It is the most powerful, nonviolent tool we have to create a more perfect union." So with that, I close, and there will be a slide at the end that has a couple of websites that you can use for more information to get information about voting and also track your absentee ballot. So thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.